Sometimes it's the little man who stands tallest in the NBA. Like the undersized athletic freak who defied the odds again and again and again. Or a guy named Spud, who at 5'7" defied logic, becoming a slam dunk champion.
Incredible upset, Spud Webb.
These are players who defied the laws of gravity. This is Dunk Defying.
As a native of Dallas, Texas, from the Atlanta Hawks, standing 5'7", Spud Webb.
It was the most surprising performance of any slam dunk contest I've ever seen in my life. Nobody gave him a chance, including myself.
It was just somebody jumping so far beyond what appeared to be the natural ability to do it, and it defined to some degree how people thought about him from then on.
Here's a guy that comes in and digs his way through, and I mean, that's the American dream, the underdog, the guy who everybody thought couldn't make it.
5'7" Spud Webb from this area, has gotten a lot of national publicity lately, a great leaper, and he will really turn the crowd on. But I don't think he's a contestant to win this thing.
I think in the early years when Spud Webb was in the NBA, there were very few other small players. So I don't know how many people took him serious at 5'7".
I have my favorite. I think Dominique Wilkins is going to win this thing.
We all knew, you know, how great Michael Jordan was. He wasn't in it. And all of a sudden everyone says, okay, Dominique is just going to put on a show, we're going to hand him the title, and we're going to all applaud.
I tell you, I like Gerald Wilkins, his brother. Gerald sort of goes horizontal, and I think that might get the crowd going.
I was like, this guy don't have a chance. You know, he's the smallest guy. You know, he hadn't shown anything during the season, you know, other than the fact that he was a little guy who could occasionally get up there and dunk the ball, but he never did anything spectacular.
Before Spud came along, guys that were 6 feet and under, you really didn't think of. First of all, you didn't think they could dunk. And when Spud came around, I think it just changed the culture of not only dunking in the NBA, but the excitement that it brought to the dunk contest.
Well, for a guy to be that size and be able to dunk is pretty incredible. Not just dunk, also, you know, he played in the league a good amount of time. But for a guy of that stature, to be able to play against the big guys in the NBA, it's a pretty remarkable story.
Didn't supposed to be there. Wasn't a guy my size playing. And a guy, you know, I don't think under 6 feet ever won a slam dunk contest, let alone be in it.
Hey, remember what I told y'all too. Y'all come out strong, all right? Serious side.
You go out there and mess up, that's all they gonna remember. Because, you know, folks look for stuff like that, so I had to be on my A game.
There's definitely similarities there. I mean, you go back and look at, you know, some of the things Spud Webb was able to do, and you compare it to Nate now. And I mean, especially because I grew up with him, so I'm like, man, they comparing you with Spud Webb.
I think Nate came into the situation, as most little guys do, with the Napoleon complex. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to win it. All the odds are against me.
I think it goes back to that schoolyard mentality of the little guy always probably being picked on by the big bully. And I think that's why most fans can identify when the smaller guys are in the dunk contest, because it's the underdog, it's the little guy taking on the big bully.
So now it is 5'9" Nate Robinson with his second dunk.
If that kid's 5'9", I'm skinny.
When you're small, like you know, you're short like us, it's like the bigger guys always tell you can't do something, so we want to prove it to you.
Little guys like that, you know, who are high flyers, and they do have a chip on their shoulder, and they should, because you're playing amongst the giants. You have to have a chip on your shoulders and confidence in yourself if you're going to play amongst the big guys.
This may be 50, Kenny. 50, Kenny. 50!
Our whole life, he's always thrived off being the underdog, you know. I just think it's just his attitude, you know. He never wants to be, you know, looked at as too small or he can't fit in because of his size.
Every little guy has a chip on their shoulder because they're always proving that it's not a big man's game. You know, the rim is 10 feet. You know, the court is 94 feet. The lane is widened. Everything's for big people. And all of a sudden, here you are, a small guy who has to play in this big world.
Coming up on Dunk Defying.
Spud was a rock star at NC State.
Now, I must tell you, I did not know he was going to do some of the dunks he did, because we never seen him do that before.
And still to come.
You know, Friday or Saturday, you can pick up the Seattle Times, man, and Nate the Great would be the headlines.
I texted him, I was like, I have the perfect idea for your dunk contest, you know, and he was like, what? I was like, nah, I have to tell you in person.
I grew up in the Dallas Boys and Girls Club, you know, playing every sport and every activity you could find yourself to do to just stay off the streets. I think I was dunking probably when I was about 5'4", somewhere around there. You know, you just tried so many times. I mean, I just really can't put any other picture on it. It was a gift from God that the guy my size that can dunk. My junior year, I didn't make the varsity. I probably was 4'11", probably at the time. And by the time my senior year, I was like maybe 5'4", somewhere around there. But I ended up starting on the varsity, and probably was all state or all city. I averaged probably close to 30 points a game. So I just was playing in these all-star games, and the guy coached at Midland College was Jerry Stone. And he came like, you want to go to Midland? I'm like, sure, have nowhere else to go, you know.
I'm one of those guys that always is kind of on the lookout for unusual stories. And I used to talk to the editors at Sports Illustrated. Somewhere I saw a little like maybe 2-line thing about some little guy whose name was Spud Webb. Well, I love names, good nicknames. And it said this guy was a great basketball player and could jump to the moon, so to speak. So I thought, got to do something on this guy. And so I went down to Midland, which is not really near anything at all. And met up with Spud and just had a delightful time.
That article puts you on the spotlight of, you know, people are now going to watch you and see if you really can play. And we went to Hutchins, Kansas, which is the Final Four of the National Junior College Championship. In the last game, we played the team that had like 6'10", 6'7" guys. They were 34-0. And we were sitting there watching them warm up. Look at those big old guys down there, and the coach Stone like, yo, look at them, we're gonna be, you know. So I ended up scoring like 34 points the game. We won the National Junior College Championship.
As we watch the old footage, we see the jump ball won in overtime by Midland. Spud comes down, immediately hits a jump shot, and that put them ahead to eventually stay. And I think even more interesting is the end when the award is being presented. The MVP goes to Spud Webb. And you see his demeanor, very stoic. Not a whole lot to say, but that's what Spud was all about.
This is quite a team they had there at Midland, but I don't think anybody at that point thought that he would be an NBA star, or play in the NBA. I really don't think they thought he'd ever play, you know, much beyond junior college.
After, you know, winning every honor you can make in junior college, there wasn't no schools coming knocking the door down. And I guess I got a little discouraged about that, but once it was like maybe a month or two before school started, and the guy at NC State changed his mind about going, and they called, and I'm like, you want to come to NC State?
Spud was a rock star at NC State. The fans, and I think the nation at that time, was in love with his game and his ability to do some of the things that he was able to do on the basketball floor.
Spud was probably, if not the quickest, right behind Muggsy, was probably the quickest guy that you had to guard individually with the basketball. He was actually a freak of nature. I had never seen anything like him, never played anyone like him. And on the offensive end, he was just a nightmare.
Well, Spud was quick. You know, even though we were small, we totally different type of players. He was quick in the open court. He had a lot of his jumping ability was unbelievable. He can get off the floor, and he had a good ability, a knack of where to get his shot off and how to get it off. You know, we was the fastest one on the floor, so we had to chase each other around. That was kind of tough to do.
Back in the mid-'80s, there was no D-League, so if you were considered a borderline NBA prospect and wanted to play in the States, you had two choices, the CBA or a new upstart league called the USBL.
Spud Webb sees the opening and takes advantage beautifully.
Well, I think it was the first year the USBL started up. It was me, Manu Bowl, all those projects players. We was in Rhode Island. Kevin was great. He was coming from all those great years with Celtics, and he just, you know, just coached us with what he knew and tried to tell us what to expect in the NBA and what the NBA scouts are expecting for us.
So we had Manu Bowl, who's the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of physical stature, from Spud, and he put up some numbers that were intriguing, but people really didn't know what to make of him either, for the opposite reasons. He was just under 7'7" in bare feet, but he only weighed 190 pounds.
Playing the USBL with Manu was a riot because you laugh 24 hours. He's the funniest guy you ever meet in your life. We actually lived together and rode the practices together, and it was the funnest times of my life.
He thought he had a good shot to be a catalyst type player, which, you know, again, I have to give some credit to Mike Fratello, because he's the guy that gave him a real chance like that, where other people probably weren't going to give him.
I honestly can remember that the first day we flew him in, when Detroit had waived him, we flew him in, we were playing an exhibition game. And he comes in and we give him a uniform, and I remember talking to him before the game, and I said, don't worry about anything. No plays, don't worry. When you get the ball, I just want you to go as fast as you can from one end of the court to the other end of the court. Either get a shot or create a shot for somebody else.
In college, they can kind of contain you, and you can really find your advantages because of the zones. But, you know, in a professional level, it's man-to-man, and you can beat your man every time.
And at that time in the league, you did not see many of the smaller players, but Mike felt that he could make the size work to his advantage, because other teams would say, hey, we can kill this guy, we take him down low, but that didn't always happen.
He didn't like when big guys try to post him up in the game. Actually, we enjoyed it because we knew what was going to happen. He always said, you use your size, I'll use my speed.
I think one of the first dunks I've seen him do was against the Lakers, coming down the lane, and it was Kareem and Magic, and I want to say it was Kurt Rambis, and he threw it down.
To Webb in the open floor.
And then everybody turned around and looked at it like, huh, he can play. You know, so we both, myself, Doc Rivers, went to Mike Fratello and said, we can't cut this guy.
Well, you remember, we had, on that team, we had players like Dominique Wilkins, we had Cliff Livingston, you know, Kevin Willis, a 7-footer who could really run the floor, Antoine Carr, John Battle as a backup, Doc Rivers, okay, our starting point guard. So we had guys that could run the floor and get down the other end. Now, if you didn't want to run hard, Spud was going to leave you behind.
Here comes Spud Webb. Drops it inside to Willis for the jam, and the Hawks are a little spurred now.
Between myself, Cliff, Dominique, Antoine, I mean, we're busting our tails down the floor to try to get the ball from him, because, like I say, if you're not with him, it's just too bad, because he's going to get down the floor. It's just that explosive, just that quick.
So we were playing Atlanta, and I got switched out. And I was like, okay, I'm going to space him. I'm going to make sure he could just, you know, knock down a jump shot. He's not going to get by me. Next thing you know, he's by me. But not only is he by me, he's finishing at the rim over Detlef Shrimp, and I'm in the play trying to block him from behind. He was definitely too quick for me, even though I thought I could keep Spud in front of me.
Once you're on the heels, you can't do it. And that's what he did to Isaiah. He got Isaiah, because look how far Isaiah's back from him. Isaiah's playing against that speed, he's back on his heels, boom, here comes the cross. And then he actually got contact, which is one of his 2 dunks in the league.
You know, every day in practice, watching him play for us on the court in the games, I thought I had a pretty good feel for Spud and felt that he really had a chance to surprise people with what he was capable of doing.
Mike was a throwback old school coach that, if he could, would have played with us. I mean, he wore his heart and soul, and the one game where he goes in and Spud gets knocked, I think Milwaukee, and he gets popped into Mike gets knocked down.
Spud tips it from behind. Sikma, jumper, no. And Kristoviak keeps it alive, and he and Spud take down Fratello.
There are many things about that incident that people are not aware of. First of all, Spud was very upset. There was a period right before that where he felt he should have been getting more playing time. So this was done on purpose.
Blackman double team. Now triple team as well. Oh, what a showboat play. There's the board.
When he dunked at home, they would just leave the seats. I mean, they would go crazy, high-fiving, jumping, doing all types of things, because it was so exciting to see play a guy that small and a body that small to go out and dunk the basketball.
I think Stan Caston came to me like, what do you think about the dunk contest? I was like, you know, sure, because I've been in dunk contests all my life. You know, people probably didn't expect me to, you know, do a variety of dunks.
When we return, Spud stands tall in Dallas.
I must tell you, I did not know he was going to do some of the dunks he did, because we never seen him do that before.
Well, in 1986, I was a 30-year-old weekend sportscaster in Atlanta, and I covered the Hawks on a regular basis. So there was a lot of buzz about this dunk contest in Dallas. You know, nobody knew what he had in store.
I just remember seeing this man named Spud Webb. And I remember seeing somebody with a big patch in the side of their head, and it just was one of the best dunk contests I ever seen.
I was a senior at UCLA, and I remember being in my dorm room, and we were all obviously watching the dunk contest, and I was like, is this guy, are they for real?
I don't think there'd never be, in terms of an underdog performance like Spud, because we knew Michael and Dominique were special, and Dr. J, but nobody knew Spud was special like that as a dunker.
And I know he's really pumped up. The adrenaline is going to be really high when he got to Dallas, and he went in there and he did some things that we've never seen in practice.
I must tell you, I did not know he was going to do some of the dunks he did because we never seen him do that before, because he never worked on it in practice. So it kind of shocked me with a few things that he did.
You hear Nick say, you know, that we didn't even see in practice, or where did you get all these dunks from? Because after practice, I was, you know, watching Doc and them, seeing what the NBA is about. So I never had no chance to just sit around after practice and like practice dunks.
Get that cape on here.
Nick came talking about put the cape on. I guess his thing was taking over a game, was putting his cape on and taking us on his back and winning the game for us. I think that's where he got that from.
Well, you know, obviously everybody in the warm-ups is going to be showing a little bit of what they have. You know, it's a packed crowd. Everybody was just doing their thing. You know, Nick was throwing it off the glass and dunking it as hard as he can. Terrence was doing 360s, and you know, I was doing my thing, and along with all the other guys, and Spud was just almost like doing a layup. It was crazy.
I was in high school, and I remember always a big fan of Dominique Wilkins. Obviously, in Dominique Wilkins in a dunk contest, I thought for sure, hands down, it would be Dominique.
I think Dominique Wilkins is going to win this thing, John. I think he should have won the first year. He won last year in convincing fashion. I pick him to be a second-time winner this year.
I think Nick was, he sort of anticipated that, you know, he was going to go out and just win the dunk contest because of his reputation, he had won it the year before.
Oh, clutch two-hander.
He just got some advice from Calvin Murphy before he did that one.
I was talking to him about how to impress. I told him because of his size that he had a long way to go, that he wanted to pace himself.
I think you saw the guys. I think it was Michael and Patrick's reaction. Everybody knew he could jump, but I think the dunks he was doing and the elevation, it started to surprise everybody, and that's when everybody at that arena started to get behind him.
He goes back to the double clutch move.
That gets him. Boy, the crowd loves him. He's a hometown guy here in Dallas.
A lot of the things that Spud was doing was surprising Dominique. So actually, it put more pressure on Nick than it did Spud, because Spud was the no-name guy that no one thought could do anything.
Okay.
I'll tell you, if that's not a 4.9 or a 5.0.
Dominique did amazing stuff look easy. I still think Dominique's the greatest dunker that's ever lived in the game. There's a lot of good ones. I think he's still the best ever.
First, Spud Webb, the local favorite, and the defending champion, Dominique Wilkins. So it's an Atlanta Hawk final.
Obviously, Nick at 6'8", Spud at 5, whatever he wants to lie and say he is, okay? And it just made it special because they were both teammates, and you know, I'm sitting there trying to remain neutral between the two of them.
And Spud Webb comes through in the clutch to put the pressure on Dominique. And another 50 for Spud Webb.
I mean, some of them dunks he did where he threw those timing dunks and he jumped and pumped them in the air. I don't know too many guys can do that who's bigger than he is.
You have to give Spud a lot of credit for his brain, because he threw the ball up there and went and got it. He couldn't do a 360 with the ball in his hand. But if he threw the ball, he could do a 360, then dunk it. But you got to give him a lot of credit for being smart.
I think at that time, the difficulty that Spud Webb had in his dunks were probably mammoth, because the things that he did, no one had ever tried before. These were the first time we were seeing people throw the ball up and lob it and catch it. So he was an innovator.
Dominique Wilkins. Do or die right here. I don't think so, John. That was impressive, but I don't think that was 50.
You can really appreciate how high he gets, and he bring the ball down by a shoot, and he dunked it with two hands hard. I was like, that's a 50.
48, our new slam dunk champion with an incredible upset. Spud Webb.
Big Dominique, I didn't think this guy had a chance.
Shows you how much we know.
We got word that Spud had won the thing, and we were just scrambling to get the highlights, couldn't wait to put those on the air and show people, because telling an audience that Spud Webb won the slam dunk contest without video, not a very good weekend sportscast.
Even though we could arguably say I probably should have won it, but I was happy to see him win because all the odds was against him anyway. So it's not like anybody gave anything to Spud. I mean, he earned his right to be there. It just was a very close contest.
He didn't want to get on Spud too much because he was a teammate. But in his heart, he knew that he should have won it. He wanted to win it, but Spud was just a better man that night.
Looking back at it, you know, I think he got screwed by a narrow margin. And that narrow margin being that Spud was a hometown guy and just stole the crowd. And did do some dunks that were, you know, per se spectacular for his size.
All the guys, Doc and all those guys, they gave him hell the whole time, you know. Just start Spud. He's the dunk contest winner, you know, messing with Neek. Let's run the plays for Spud. He's the best dunker on the team.
We met up after the All-Star break. We were on a West Coast trip. And so we all got on the bus to go to practice. Well, Mike Fratello runs on the bus, and Neek's behind him. And he said, hey guys, please, don't say anything about the dunk contest. Neek is not real happy, don't say anything. So we were like, oh, okay. Right when Neek walked on. How could you let a 5'4" guy beat you? It was so fun. Mike was so upset at us. It was great.
Well, you know what it's all about in the locker room. Now, once he comes in and on the bus with those guys, he's going to hear it. They're going to remind him about it.
And I remember just the next day after Spud Webb had won that contest in Dallas, that everybody in my high school thought that they could dunk a basketball if they were Spud Webb's size. So after recess and after school was over, everybody was grabbing a ball, standing at half court, lobbing the ball towards the basket, hoping to get a perfect bounce near the rim to throw the ball down.
And I think even Spud Webb did things that really were renowned around the world, because in 1988, I had occasion to go with the Atlanta Hawks to Russia and to Lithuania and to Soviet Georgia, because then it was before the Soviet Union broke up. And the Hawks were there, and Spud Webb gets the biggest cheer, and I'm saying, what the heck is this all about? They said, well, there were pirated tapes from Turkish television that were continually reshown, and everybody in Soviet Georgia knew about Spud Webb. And what did they know? That in 1986, he won the slam dunk contest in Dallas.
I was just on a whirlwind tour, you know, and then he went to Magic Johnson's Midsummer Night Magic. That was almost harder to get in than an All-Star game.
Here comes Spud Webb. Spud Webb.
My charity game was more free-for-all. So, Spud, you can do any dunks and how many dunks you want to do, and then Dominique, you can do, and they put the crowd on their feet.
Dominique dunked, but then Magic made me get up and dunk. So the crowd went crazy because I dunked.
And Magic makes him challenge Dominique again at the UCLA where they had the game. And I think he probably put on a better show there than he actually did in the dunk contest.
You better get him, Dominique. He's mad at Spud. Let's go. Isaiah's showing him what to do. Look both ways. Oh, yeah.
So Dominique go there telling Magic, you know, I got one more, I got one more. So he dunks, and then Magic makes me get back up and dunk.
You got to top that, Spud. Let's go.
He had it rocking up in the building. It was just great to see them just do anything you want as many times. If you miss, it doesn't matter. Keep doing it. And boy, they tore the house down.
Coming up on Dunk Defying, Nate the Great lights up the Emerald City.
And people used to be like, who are these kids from Seattle that can jump like this?
Well, I had an opportunity to talk to Nate on several occasions. I did some Knick games.
Hey, T-Rex! T-Rex! T-Rex!
You hear him before you see him. I'll say that. That's one thing, guy. You hear him before you see him.
When people talk to me about Nate, I let them know that he's like a little
4-year-old who you just gave a big bowl of sugar and just just let him go at it?
He probably was the same height. He probably the same height his whole life, even when he was a baby. So everybody thought he was tall, but then we just outgrew him.
First time I saw Nate was, we were in, I think, 4th or 5th grade. So it wasn't unusual to see a guy, you know, that small playing because, you know, I was about average height and he was a little smaller than me. So we used to go out at recess and we used to play all the kids like 2-on-5. Me and B. Roy used to always play 2-on-5. Me and him be on the same team. We used to always beat everybody and I guess that's how we got started.
Day one, Nate was, you know, Coach, man, I'm gonna be in the league. I'm gonna be in the league. And after a while, you know, at the beginning you just, yeah. After a while, you really start to believe the kid.
I think it was 7th or 8th grade, you know, I think somebody threw him a lob and he dunked it. And I'm thinking, no way, you know, because I couldn't even dunk at the time and I was taller than him. He's 5'9" now, so he's probably like, you know, 5'3", 5'4" back then, but I thought it was special. You know, I knew he would be a special athlete.
He's so effective. He's a pro's pro. And Nate is all flash. You know, it's hard not to watch him when he's on the court. You know, he takes everybody's attention away from everybody else, and he just does his thing.
Tell you a little story. We were pressing. Lodrick Stewart had stole the ball, went in, and you know, made a move, went to the hoop. And everybody kind of like thought he was gonna lay it up, and actually he did. It came off, and all of a sudden, it looked like somebody dropped Nate out of the ceiling.
We used to do like NBA jams. If guys remember Sega from NBA jams, people doing flips and off the glass and off the wall. We used to do a whole bunch of stuff like that before the game. And people used to be like, who are these kids from Seattle that can jump like this?
One day after, in the gym, he just started doing all type of dunks. And for me to be 6'6" and doing dunks and him to copy me, it's like, that's amazing.
You know, Friday or Saturday, you can pick up the Seattle Times, man, and Nate the Great would be the headlines. You know, I've seen that on a couple of occasions, man, whether it be basketball or football. So, I mean, he's definitely a special player in both sports.
Nate was just always a star athlete, you know, in any sport. He was, in high school, he was basketball state player of the year, football state player of the year in the same year. And to this day, I think he still owns the fastest time in the hurdles.
Nate was the best, he probably gonna get mad for me telling this, but Nate was the best track runner in Washington until he ran up against some guy, I forgot the guy's name.
Yeah, Sheldon Sampson. It was a good race all the way to the last hurdle, because my trail leg is my left, and his trail leg is his right. So he's on my left. So every time I went over the hurdle, we would hit arms, because my arm would go out and his arm would go, you know, the other way. So we was nudging the whole race, and he beat me. I was so mad. I had the record the whole year, and I went to state and got second in everything.
And I have the picture still in Seattle. Nate lost. I was happy, because he thought he was invincible.
I can't predict, you know, what would have happened, but, you know, I could have seen him being a really good, you know, cornerback in the NFL, because he's that kind of athlete. And, you know, I was out there watching him play in the Apple Cup. You know, I think it's his freshman year.
And they played Washington State in the Apple Cup. And that was a Saturday game. And Nate basically saved the game for the University of Washington with the interception against a 6'7" wide receiver. You know, they isolated him one-on-one matchup against Nate, threw it up, Nate went up, got the interception.
You know, Nate was a football player. So Nate is aggressive by nature and very powerful, and he knows it, and he's not afraid to let you know how he feels and what he thinks. So he's a guy that's fearless, and will go to the hoop and try to power dunk on you.
He's definitely one of the toughest guys I know. I mean, you know, in practice, you know, coach would put us on opposite teams, you know, at time, even though we were in the starting lineup, just because he knew we would try to bring out the best in one another. And, you know, I'd be like, uh-oh, coach, putting Nate on another team. I knew what type of day it would be the minute we went on the floor.
People don't know that he was a walk-on to the team at University of Washington for basketball. Everybody see him in the NBA and winning dunk contests. They're like, he was made for that.
We were at North Carolina State, and I caught the ball at the elbow, and I went left, and I shot a left-hand layup, and it went off the glass, and I'm thinking, like, man, I missed it.
Something good should happen when Roy has it. And there's Roy! Oh, that's a Richter scale jam!
And I just followed the shot. And when it came off kind of far, so I grabbed it from like you know, way that like from my lower to my waist.
I mean, he was like leaning back and he threw it down. I think I had the best view in the house because I was falling and I'm looking up at him.
And I was like, wow, I kind of shocked myself. Coach Romar and all our bench going crazy. It was unbelievable.
You think of tall guys that actually look down on the rim. And they was playing against Arizona. They threw him a lob and he dunked it. And he literally looked down in the rim, and the next day in the paper he said, I looked down in the rim.
Oh, we got pressure coming? We got a little pressure coming?
One thing I do love about Nate, he's an enthusiast.
Oh my God!
He loves the game. He really has a passion for it.
Oh! That's us!
He wouldn't be in the NBA if it wasn't for his enthusiasm for basketball.
Alley-oop, Robinson, oh, and a pass from Duhan to Nate Robinson.
He kind of has that little man complex a little bit, you know, that one where he kind of have a little attitude.
Paul looking to back in against Robinson and a foul. And Robinson getting in the face of Paul.
The city of New York loves Nate Robinson because he brings that energy and he plays so hard and he's just an entertaining little guy.
Robinson inside, nice pass. And Robinson again turns, goes right at Paul.
When he dunks on big guys, it's on YouTube 2.5 seconds later.
Oh, Nate Robinson comes flying in.
So Nate Robinson is our Spud Webb. And for him to do it, he's little. And who knows how tall he is. I read somewhere it said he was 5'5". The next day it said he was 5'9". Yeah, right.
Coming up on Dunk Defying, Nate gets a boost from an unlikely source.
I texted him, I was like, I have the perfect idea for your dunk contest, you know, and he was like, what? I was like, no, I have to tell you in person.
When I think about the 2006 Slam Dunk Contest, what stands out is it came 20 years after Spud Webb had won it and had amazed everybody in Dallas. And so now you had Nate Robinson, who was going to be center stage. And this was 10 years after another little guy had tried his best and failed, I don't want to say miserably, but it wasn't good.
That's the old Spud Webb dunk here. The little guy's dream.
Oh. When Darryl Armstrong was in it, everybody wants to root for the little guy. Darryl, unfortunately, struggled a little bit.
Ooh, that would have been good, Reggie. That would have been very nice.
We were all surprised that he entered the dunk contest because we never seen him dunk. But we tried to be supportive, but he was just taking too long.
So everybody wanted to see if Nate could bring the little guy back to the forefront of the Slam Dunk Contest.
You know, the rules of the dunk contest, I didn't like that many attempts. I loved it when back in the day you got one attempt.
I think once you miss 3 or 4 or 5 dunks, your scores just go down the tubes. You shouldn't even get a score at that point.
Robinson again.
No, it's time to give it up, really.
I was more frustrated because, you know, usually when I'm hyped, I can do that dunk easy. And that kind of makes me, you know, that kind of got me going. I was like, I got to do this dunk. This is the dunk. I'm not going to switch it up.
Yeah, just dunk it now. Just come up with something where he can make it.
Oh!
Well, it was cool.
You miss that often, and you begin to have doubt of his self-confidence because dunking is all about confidence, all about showmanship. And when he finally was able to seal the deal, there was like a collective release. Thank goodness.
I remember watching it at home with the family and just amazed at Nate Robinson and Andre Iguodala. Both those guys, what they were doing. You got a chance to see the dunk kind of evolve into something different. I've never seen a guy like Andre Iguodala come from out of bounds under the rim.
That's it. Oh! There it is, young gun. There it is.
He came up with it. You know, he just said, you know, throw the ball on the backboard and I'll do the rest.
I heard Nate Robinson has a dunk that if he does, it's going to be a perfect attempt.
Jamal Crawford, you know, give him the credit for that. He came up with the idea because I honestly didn't know what I was going to do, but he was like, Nate, I got the best idea, but you can't tell nobody.
I texted him, I was like, I have the perfect idea for your dunk contest, you know, and he was like, what? I was like, no, I have to tell you in person. So I told him about incorporating the Spud Webb.
I know what he's doing. I see it. I see it coming. He's bringing out Spud. He's bringing out Spud Webb.
The funny thing was the day before, I was wandering around at the arena, went back in the practice gym, and Nate was in there practicing for the slam dunk. And there's Spud Webb standing in the paint.
I drove to Houston down to the All-Star game like the night before. Like, Nate want to meet you, and so we went and met, and all that. We walked in the gym. He said, "This is what I want to do. Just stand right here, and I'm gonna jump over you."
He was asking me, he's like, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, "Well, I jumped over my best friend. He's like 6'1", 6 feet." I'm like, "It's easy." And then he was like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
I mean, this guy didn't even stretch. He didn't even like bounce the ball or dunk one. He just got the ball. And Reggie Miller was standing on the side. He said, "Oh, y'all up to something."
This is going to be something special. This is going to be something special because you're obviously something old, something new coming together.
And he just grabbed the ball, ran, jumped over me, and dunked like 5 times in a row and didn't touch me one time. I was like, "You got to be kidding me."
And we tried it, and it worked, and I made it, and I was like, "You don't need to practice no more. Don't worry about it."
And I was like, "Oh, is that going to be cool?" And all people did was turn around and go,
50, Kenny. 50.
I heard the cheers, so obviously I made the dunk and I didn't knock him over. That's all I was worried about. That's the only thing that was really going through my mind that whole time, was just jumping over him, clearing him, making sure we both made it out safe.
I want to congratulate Nate Robinson. Yeah. That kid is #1. Congratulations. He in phenomenal shape.
No question about it.
I thought Andre Iguodala showed his best stuff early in the dunk contest, and he should have saved it. If he had done some of those dunks he did in the earlier rounds against Nate Robinson, he would have won. But he didn't.
You know, Andre, I mean, I ain't taking nothing from him, but he definitely did like 2 dunks, the same dunk twice, and like, I don't know how you're supposed to win doing something like that.
That's Nate. You know, he's going to say that. I think some of the dunks Andre did was phenomenal, but I think you're at a disadvantage when you're going up against a guy 5'9", the crowd favorite, but then also you look at some of Nate's dunks. There are some of those dunks that guys at 6'6", 6'7" couldn't do, so it came down to even. It came off to a dunk off, and Nate Robinson prevailed.
I definitely was surprised with Nate Robinson's performance. I knew he could jump. I knew he was a great leaper, but I didn't know he could do it like that.
You know, this is Nate, you know, kind of paying his respects to, you know, to a legend like Spud Webb, and I thought it was cool. I'm like, look at Nate jumping over Spud. That was pretty sick.
Well, it was great because you saw where it began with Spud, and for him to come together behind closed doors, come up with this dunk, taking out the jersey. I mean, it was very historic.
If you're a little guy and you could dunk, your idol was Spud Webb, bar none. He's the guy who made you want to try to dunk. And to say that it was more than just a dunk over Spud, it was a statement that I'm jumping over the guy who actually started it all for little guys.
Coming up, Super Friends square off in the Valley of the Sun.
It was David versus Goliath. It was the little guy versus the big guy.
You had Dwight Howard, who is the epitome of what a big man is. He has all the skills that every big man wants to possess: size, athleticism, and his prowess. And then you have Nate Robinson, has everything a little guy wants: quickness, speed, and his athletic prowess. So it was 2 diametrically different players coming together to see which was the best at it.
I think the thing about the dunk contest is and not that I can speak from experience, obviously, but once a person has been in it, the question is, what are they going to show me this time that's going to be different from what won them the contest?
So I was like, "Nate, what you gonna do tonight?" And he was, you know, he kind of played it off like, "I don't know, you know, I think I got something for it." So I was like, "All right."
We wore green jerseys, you know, for St. Patrick's Day every year. So I was just, you know, thinking, since we have Superman, you know, I just threw it to Nike, you know, we should come up with a kryptonite dunk for Superman. And they were like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
I love the green, you know, Nate, Crypto, Howard shoes. That was dramatic and it was a nice flair to it. But anytime you can raise the basketball extension like Dwight did to, I don't know, what was it, 12, 13 feet? Come on, that's kind of hard to top. Oh, no way. Oh my
He did that easy.
We might be two of the most creative guys, so we really don't need much help. We're one of those guys who would get in the gym and just work on, like on our off day, just go work on dunks. And, so we basically know how we want to do stuff and just get out there and just have fun with it.
At 2009, you say, man, what can these guys come up with? And especially in Nate's case, because when you are a little guy, you can't do all the things maybe that some of the big guys can. And so I think I had my doubts as to whether or not Nate would be able to pull anything off and beat Dwight.
Remember when he jumped over Spud?
Yep.
Yeah. He said he's going to jump over something else, and that's why the kryptonite shoes are.
I told him, I said, just make sure you push off the back of my neck so you can actually get over me. Because, if he would have just tried to jump over me, he probably wouldn't did it.
If he can jump over Superman, he should win it.
You basically given him the championship. Because again, people who's never dunked before, that's watching this at home or at the arena, and they see this little guy, 5'11", 6 feet, dunk over this 7-footer as Dwight is, people are gonna be like, hand him the trophy.
I asked Kobe Bryant, and I said, would you have let Nate jump? And before I even finished it, no way. He said, no way. And the competitive, certain players who are super competitive, they wouldn't have let him do it.
We, from Seattle, we tip our hat off to Dwight Howard because Dwight Howard let him jump over him. If Dwight Howard don't do it, he probably doesn't win.
Dwight knows how to work a room, and and he's a good guy. It's not like in the midst of a contest he's going to shelter himself in the corner and I don't want to see the other guys dunk. I'm just going to come out and do it. Yeah, Nate asked him to be part of it, and I think part of Dwight was, I'd like to see if he can do this too.
Dwight's a great guy. I mean, I kind of volunteered myself, my second year in Vegas for Gerald Green to jump over me, and he won as well. So I mean, it always comes back around.
Nick would have never let that happen, particularly for the game, for the contest winning dunk. It wouldn't have happened. Spud would have had to go a whole different route.
The 2009 NBA Sprite Slam Dunk Champion is Nate Robinson!
I called it! I called it!
I think they're always rooting for the underdog. And a lot of fans see themselves in Nate. I don't know if it's because of his size, but he's a very joyful and playful guy, sometimes to the extreme.
I remember telling people, you see Nate every day. Do you ever get, used to it? And I was like, never. To this day, I'll go into a gym and he'll do a dunk. And I'm like, man, I've seen this dude since we was kids, and he never seems to surprise me.
Me growing up as well, I watched Spud, I watched Michael Jordan, and I wanted to be just like them. One day win a dunk contest.
He's a little guy that could. I think all guys root for the underdog, and there's no question that he's the underdog. He's 5'7", 5'8". You have kids out here at 13 and 14 taller than him. He makes a kid believe that if I don't get any taller, I can still do this.
People wish they could dunk. Everyone talked about, be like Mike. A lot of people wish they could jump like Nate Robinson.
Every time I see that little man jamming, I say, hey, there's still hope for me.
When I came in, wasn't a guy my size playing, so I think if I wouldn't have made it or been a bust, they wouldn't have got the opportunity. They just showing their appreciation of, you going out and be a trailblazer for them.
He has to be an inspiration. When you see him and you realize that he played in the NBA at 132 pounds, but he used his speed and quickness, took advantage of it, and it shows. It doesn't matter how big, how tall you are, how much you weigh. The fact that he could play at this level and be successful, I think gives people hope.
If you watch basketball, you could never be Shaq. You can never be 7 feet. You can never be that big. You can never be Dwight Howard. But you can look at this and say, I could be him. I could be Spud. I could be Nate. And I think that it's a self-satisfying moment to watch television and see someone playing at a highest level that could be you.
Over Spud? Yep. Yeah. He said he's going to jump over something else, and that's why the kryptonite shoes are.
I told him, I said, just make sure you push off the back of my neck so you can actually get over me. Because, you know, if he would have just tried to jump over me, he probably wouldn't did it.
If he can jump over Superman, he should win it.
You basically given him the championship. Because again, people who's never dunked before, that's watching this at home or at the arena, and they see this little guy, 5'11", 6 feet, dunk over this 7-footer as Dwight is, people are gonna be like, hand him the trophy.
I asked Kobe Bryant, and I said, would you have let Nate jump? And before I even finished it, no way. He said, no way. And the competitive, certain players who are super competitive, they wouldn't have let him do it.
We, from Seattle, we tip our hat off to Dwight Howard because Dwight Howard let him jump over him. If Dwight Howard don't do it, he probably doesn't win.
Dwight knows how to work a room, and and he's a good guy. You know, it's not like in the midst of a contest he's going to shelter himself in the corner and I don't want to see the other guys dunk. I'm just going to come out and do it. Yeah, Nate asked him to be part of it, and I think part of Dwight was, I'd like to see if he can do this too.
You know, Dwight's a great guy. I mean, I kind of volunteered myself, my second year in Vegas for Gerald Green to jump over me, and he won as well. So I mean, it always comes back around.
Nick would have never let that happen, particularly for the game, for the contest winning dunk. It wouldn't have happened. Spud would have had to go a whole different route.
The 2009 NBA Sprite Slam Dunk champion is Nate Robinson!
I called it! I called it!
I think they're always rooting for the underdog. And a lot of fans see themselves in Nate. I don't know if it's because of his size, but he's a very joyful and playful guy, sometimes to the extreme.
I remember telling people, hey, like, you see Nate every day. Do you ever get, used to it? And I was like, never. To this day, I'll go into a gym and he'll do a dunk. And I'm like, man, I've seen this dude since we was kids, and he never seems to surprise me.
Me growing up as well, I watched Spud, I watched Michael Jordan, and I wanted to be just like them. One day win a dunk contest.
He's a little guy that could. I think all guys root for the underdog, and there's no question that he's the underdog. He's 5'7", 5'8". You have kids out here that are 13 and 14 taller than him. He makes a kid believe that if I don't get any taller, I can still do this.
People wish they could dunk. Everyone talked about, be like Mike. A lot of people wish they could jump like Nate Robinson.
Every time I see that little man jamming, I say, hey, there's still hope for me.
When I came in, wasn't a guy my size playing, so I think if I wouldn't have made it, have been a bust, they wouldn't have got the opportunity. They just showing their appreciation of, you going out and be a trailblazer for them.
He has to be an inspiration. When you see him and you realize that he played in the NBA at 132 pounds, but he used his speed and quickness, took advantage of it, and it shows. It doesn't matter how big, how tall you are, how much you weigh it. The fact that he could play at this level and be successful, I think gives people hope.
If you watch basketball, you could never be Shaq. You can never be 7 feet. You can never be that big. You can never be Dwight Howard. But you can look at this and say, I could be him. I could be Spud. I could be Nate. And I think that it's a self-satisfying moment to watch television and see someone playing at a highest level that could be you.